Hello, YouTube! What is up? Welcome back to another Game News Roundup where we go over the latest gaming news, sales figures, and yes, I am floating in space right now because I have a green screen. The lighting's not the best, so you might see some fuzziness there. It's a little bit too dark down there, so there's a bit of a shadow and whatever. It's a work in progress. But I've rearranged the room and got a green screen. So yeah, if you're wondering why I'm floating, and I'll work on maybe a new layout or something for this Game News Roundup. Again, if anyone has any suggestions, let me know in the comments down below. Of maybe the webcam should be down at the bottom, or maybe the bottom left, bottom right, or at the top left, and the chat, I don't know. Who knows? It's fine. It's what we go over is probably the most important thing. The latest gaming news of the last several days. There's not a ton of stuff to go over, but there's a handful of bigger things, sales-wise especially. So, we'll get into this. It's always something with Activision, Blizzard, Microsoft acquisition, but Bobby Kotick, the Activision Blizzard CEO, in an interview with the Financial Times, has claimed... What? I think it should rotate, and every time I complete the rotation, your hair color should change. Oh, totally. That's a great That is a great suggestion. So, I hope YouTube's not absolutely the fuzziness, not hating the fuzziness too much. Anyways, Bobby Kotick, in an interview with the Financial Times, has claimed that Sony has been trying to sabotage Microsoft's acquisition of the company. Sony Interactive Entertainment CEO Jim Ryan has even stopped talking to Microsoft and Activision Blizzard, Bobby Kotick. His direct quote, "Suddenly, Sony's entire leadership team stopped talking to anyone at Microsoft. I think this is all Sony just trying to sabotage the transaction." Well, yeah, Sony, unsurprisingly, has been against the deal as more than anyone else because, well, I mean, they're worried about Microsoft making Call of Duty Xbox console exclusive or what other games from Activision Blizzard, but it's always mainly Call of Duty is the main focus. Although, Microsoft clearly has shown no sign of wanting to make Call of Duty an Xbox console exclusive. I see saying multi-platform, maybe obviously you could say, as I mentioned before, if you see going forward, we'll see marketing with the Xbox logo at the end of the PlayStation logo for Call of Duty games. Maybe some minor exclusive content, or maybe you'll get some content like a little early. But the main games will be still come out on PlayStation. I don't think that'd be an issue. And even Microsoft has signed a deal with Nintendo to bring Call of Duty to the Switch and future Nintendo platforms for the next 10 years. If the deal gets passed. Kotick added, the whole idea that we're not going to support a PlayStation or that Microsoft will not support the PlayStation, it is absurd. Yeah, because, well, imagine eliminating 20 million sales of Call of Duty game every year. That's a lot of revenue. That's $1.2 billion in revenue just from game sales of the game. Obviously, Microsoft takes whatever cut of that. Sony takes some whatever 30% cut of that as well. And then obviously DLC or, Battle Pass or whatever the multiplayer is and whatnot. Kotick added, he is worried that deal logs have been taken over the government agencies. However, he is still optimistic the deal will close by July. And said Microsoft has hired lawyer Beth Wilkinson, who previously worked with the FTC in 2012 to lead a probe into Google. She feels like if she is going to have to litigate against the FTC, she will absolutely crush them, said Kotick, referring to Beth Wilkinson, the lawyer that Microsoft has hired. Sony, in its own statement to Financial Times, said, "We are in contact with Microsoft." Did say they are in contact with Microsoft, and have no further comment regarding our private negotiations. And last week, or when this was written, UK's CMA, their regulators, released a provisional conclusion on Microsoft Activision Blizzard acquisition, and they came out more or less against the deal. They want Microsoft to make some provisions and whatnot. We went over that last week. So, yeah, I keep looking at the green screen like, it's so weird. I'll get used to it eventually, like my whole new setup in my room. Eventually, I may get better lighting, and this will be better, but that's for the future. Again, it's a work in progress. Again, if anyone has any suggestions on maybe different layouts or whatever for this, feel free. Let me know in the comments down below. If you're watching this live on Twitch, let me know right now. Another rumor, figure we'll do these back to back, from Activision Blizzard CEO Bobby Kotick. If the rumor from Fox Business is claiming that Kotick, he will remain as the CEO of Activision Blizzard if the deal were to fall through, which, I mean, yeah, it's kind of a given. But yeah, the report claims that sources close to the situation have stated that if the deal were to fail, Kotick will absolutely remain at the gaming giant to run the company. The sources also say they are confident the deal will be approved once the Competition and Markets Authority, CMA, of the UK looks at the numbers and realizes the deal will not harm gamers. They said the CMA is the only regulatory body that really matters. Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised. Of course, he'd stay on as the CEO. I'm not really surprised at the slightest about that. And I think the rumor is, like, if the deal goes through, that he will step down as CEO of Activision Blizzard. I guess someone else would take his place, would be my guess. Because even though Bethesda or ZeniMax is part of Xbox and Microsoft, they're still kind of run by themselves, kind of part of Xbox, but also kind of independently at the same time. If that makes sense, with, I think, Pete Hines running things. Don't quote me on that, I could be wrong. Might be someone else, but yeah. And then going into some sales stuff, we've got PS5 best-selling console. Monthly figures for January have come out. NPD released the January 2023 figures for the US, and the PS5 was the best-selling console. It also had its best sales for any January for the PS5 in terms of units and dollar sales. Also, this week, the month for NPD covers January 1st to the 28th. Nintendo Switch was the second best-selling console in January in terms of units sold and dollar sales, while the Xbox Series X and S came in third place in units sold and dollar sales. Overall spending on video games in January in the U.S. were down 5% to $4.35 billion. Spending on video game content decreased 5% to $3.79 billion. However, video game hardware sales remained flat. It's based on pretty much the same figures as last year, $394 million. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 remained the best-selling games in terms of revenue in its fourth month on the market. So yeah, the best-selling games here by the NPD Group is based on revenue and does not includes retail and some digital sales, but not all digital sales, just what they are given. And Nintendo generally almost never gives their actual digital sales to these charts, as well as some other publishers out there. There were 4 new games in the top 20 best-selling premium charts for the month of January. Remake of Dead Space debuted in 2nd place. Fire Emblem Engage debuted in 5th place. Forspoken debuted in 7th. And One Piece Odyssey debuted in 9th place. The Last of Us Part 1, thanks in part by the huge success of The Last of Us HBO TV series, jumped up from 36th to 11th place. And then going into the UK charts here, PS5, number 1 selling console in the UK in January. Switch number 2. Series X and S in 3rd. PS5 sales were up 98% year over year in January. Switch and Xbox Series X and S sales did see a drop in sales year on year, but we don't know how much. And there were over 125,000 video game consoles sold in the UK in December. Panel data not upweighted to include retailers that they don't have data from, which I think is Smith's is like the big one. I think I've heard about is the main one that they are missing. So they probably have like 85% or so of the hardware console sales market. Yeah, I want to say Smith because I always heard like it's a family-friendly retailer. That would be more in favor of the Switch. So when we do get upweighted figures, they do upweight the Switch a bit more than the PlayStation or Xbox. God of War bundle made up 55% of PS5 sales for the month. And this is a higher percent than the Horizon Forbidden West bundles did, which made up about 43% of PS5 sales from May to September 2022. 61% of Switch sales were the OLED model, which is up from 39% in January 2022. There were 2.24 million physical and digital games sold in the UK in January, based on the data they do have available, which is down 4.4% year on year. And the main reason for the drop is due to the launch of Pokemon Legends Arceus in January 2022. FIFA 23 was the best-selling game in the UK in January, and sales are much higher than FIFA 22 sales were a year ago. How much more? The data I was given did not state. How much higher? GTA 5 was the second best-selling game of the month, while another Rockstar game, RDR 2, came in 4th place. Sales for both games are actually up compared to they were last January. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 was the second best-selling game of the month, with sales higher than Vanguard were a year ago. However, sales are slowing down faster than Black Ops Cold War or Modern Warfare, the first remake in, I believe, was 2019. Remake of Dead Space was the best-selling new game, as it debuted in 6th place. This is despite the game launching towards the end of the month. Two other new games in the top 20, Fire Emblem Engage in 12th place and Forspoken in 16th place. Also, should be noted, Fire Emblem Engage does not include digital sales. You can see some of these here have a little bit of an asterisk there. Means digital sales are not available. And then Europe, we don't have a big breakdown yet, but PlayStation 5 was the best-selling console in Europe in January 2023, up 202% compared to last year. Mind you, in Europe, this is mainly in Europe. This does not include UK data, does not include Germany and some of Eastern Europe figures. It's based on what data they're able to collect for the Europe charts over at Games Industry. But yeah, PS5 best-selling console in these tracked markets, up 202%, basically threefold what it was a year ago. But he did note, Christopher Dring, head of Games Industry, did say there were big shortages last year. Nintendo Switch was the second best-selling console in Europe in January 2023 in these tracked markets, with sales down 11% year-on-year, and the Xbox Series X and S came in 3rd place, with sales dropping 32% compared to last year. So yeah, PS5 number 1 in the US, UK, those tracked Europe markets, probably I would assume across Europe anyway at this point. I guess Canada's probably about the same. Canada's usually between 8 to 10% of sales of the US. Latin America tends to favor Xbox a bit more compared to other regions, even compared to the US. So hard to say there. But I wouldn't be surprised if PS5 is still ahead of Xbox and even Switch in Latin America, as stock has greatly improved. You could actually now walk into stores and find a PS5 on store shelves. You go online, you can find it online. Compared to for after 2 years of good luck. So that's a good sign. The stock is improving greatly for the PS5. And one last thing to note, Nintendo. Tears of the Kingdom being $70, the first Nintendo game to be $70, excluding like N64 games and games that were on cartridges, which had like extra chips in them and whatever that made them more expensive. But yeah, Tears of the Kingdom, at least in the US, $70 on the Nintendo Store page. But it also was noted that Pikmin 4 had a price of $60, so it was not like every upcoming game from Nintendo would be $70. So Nintendo, in a statement sent to Game Informer, stated the suggested retail price of its games will be decided on a case-by-case basis, and the $670 price for Tears of the Kingdom will not be the trend going forward. We determine the suggested retail price for any Nintendo product on a case-by-case basis. Reads the Nintendo statement. So, yeah, I think a little bit shorter for the Game News Roundup, but, no point in extending it, going a lot longer. But I guess we can take a quick look here. Sea Smash VRS, a new game announced for PlayStation VR 2, which, again, does come out on February 22nd. Square Enix is ending Echoes of Mana, if you play that game, service on May 15th. Oh yeah, Hogwarts Legacy retail sales specifically were 80% higher than Elden Ring were last year. 80% higher than Elden Ring, and is also the biggest launch ever for a Harry Potter game at retail in the UK. Dead Island 2 has gone gold, which means the main development is done, other than maybe doing some bug fixes for like a first, a day one patch. And the release date was moved up a week to April 21st. Alan Wake 2 is now playable from start to finish, but they're still working through the game. So I think originally the game was announced for a 2023 release window, so maybe we'll get it this holiday season. We'll find out. I'd rather a game release when it's ready and not be rushed out. Even though you want to play a game now, but I'd rather a game be better and more polished than come out in a broken mess. We don't need more cyberpunks. So you know what that game was like when it first came out. Oh yeah, Sony did release a PlayStation VR 2 unboxing video. If you want to check that out, it is up on YouTube. Sonic Origins Plus was rated in Korea, which Sonic Mania did have a Plus version, which came out like a year late or something like that after the original release of Sonic Mania, but was also available. But it was also available as DLC. So I would assume as Sonic Origins Plus, the DLC will probably be like $5, $10, depending on what it is. That's just my guess, just based off of Sonic Mania and Sonic Mania Plus, which did include a little bit of new content, a couple of new playable characters. Oh yeah, Sonic Frontiers has sold over 2.9 million units as of December 2022. Persona 5 Royal Remaster has topped 1.3 million units. The Sonic franchise, over the last 9 months, from April to December 2022, sold 6.75 million units. The Total War series sold 1.75 million units. And the Persona series, 2.04 million units. Oh yeah, and the Like a Dragon series, the Yakuza side series, has sold 1.73 million units. Again, these sales are from April to December 2022. Professor Layton series has sold over 18 million units worldwide. And I think that's going to be about it. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this Game News Roundup. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit the like button. Be sure to subscribe. I'm trying to get to 10,000 subs. Maybe one of these years I will hit that small number. But, you know, it'd be kind of cool to finally hit it. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you all next time for some more Game News Roundup.